Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam, pangum langayati grim. Yat kripa tamham vande, Shri Gurum Dina Tarine. Hare Krishna. So today we'll see verse number 3 and 4 of chapter 12. So Arjuna asked the question to Krishna, who is better? Those who worship you by in your personal form, or those who worship the unmanifested or impersonal form without any figure. So Krishna explained in the last verse that those who worship me, my personal form, with mind fixed on me and in great devotion and transcendental faith, they are the best. So, but the next part in these verses, Krishna explains about the second type of devotees, those who worship the impersonal. So let us see this shloka. So these are two shlokas. So let us chant both. Ye tav aksharam anirdeshyam
ये तव अक्षरम् अनिर्देश्यम्
avyaktam paryupasate
अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते
sarvatra gam achintyam cha
सर्वत्र गम अचित्यं च
कूटस्थम achalam dhruvam.
कूटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवम्
Sanniyam yendriyagramam
सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं
sarvatra samabuddhaya
सर्वत्र समबुद्धया
te prapnuvanti mameva
ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव
sarvabhuta hite rataha.
सर्वभूतारिते हिते रतः
Okay, please chant.
ये तव अक्षरम् अनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गम अचिन्त्यं च कूटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवम् सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्रप्नुवन्ति माम् एव सर्वभूतहिते रतः
यत्त्वक्षरम् अनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमचिन्त्यं च कुटस्थम् अचलं ध्रुवं सन्नियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धय ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रतः.
Okay, thank you very much. So, translation and purport. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in welfare of or at last achieve me, purport. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal. See Krishna, after many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by method mentioned in this verse, he has to control senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is such much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to pursue super soul within the individual soul, one has to cease sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. So here we see Krishna is clearly giving indication. Yes, means the person who worships the impersonal. We have to remember that impersonal or Mayavad, this whenever this concept comes, it is like those who worship God or those who say that the ultimate truth is not a person. It's something somebody say like it's a great light, or it's some say that it's a consciousness. So these types of concepts where they don't accept the personal form of the Lord, that is actually impersonal. Yeah. But Krishna, and generally, like there is always conflict between the devotees who or any person who worship personal form, those who worship the impersonal worship. Is always conflict. But here, Krishna is clearly giving indication that his attitude, Krishna's attitude of looking at both, is very soft, or we can say very liberal. He says, yeah, those who worship the personal form, considering God has some form and activities, they are best. But he's saying, those who worship me in not in my personal form, but in impersonal form, they also at last achieve me. So at certain point of time, they are also going to accept the personal form. So there are so many examples in Bhagavatam or Chaitanya Charitamrut where the devotees were impersonal, and they never thought that God is a person. But they came in contact with some devotees, or they come in contact with God in such a way that they understood, oh yes, no, the Supreme is has form. So they changed. So at last, Krishna says, they achieve me. Hmm. But Krishna is saying, like, to do progress on spiritual path in this way is very difficult because it involves controlling of senses, controlling of mind, and it involves uh, the most important thing is being equal, being equal to everyone. That is not so easy thing. Hmm. So because in our conditioned life, our mind will make situations where we tend to differentiate between situations, between persons, between animals also. That's natural tendency how it works. So to be equal to everyone is difficult because we we can be equal to everyone if we can see some common factor. So the person who worships Krishna in personal form, they understand, okay, in every body there is super soul, who is extension of Krishna, and everybody is part of Krishna. So their meditation becomes easy, and they can become good to everyone. But if we don't have a figure, a form in your worship, then it becomes very difficult to find the common factor between the every living entity. And also controlling mind and senses is very difficult. We have seen in the sixth chapter. Arjuna says it's very difficult to control the mind. So controlling the senses and controlling the mind requires much endeavor. And when there are much endeavors, there is also a lot of more time is involved as compared to the devotional service. So Krishna is saying that okay, I accept both of them. They ultimately will come to me, but the way is different. And when Krishna says at last, so we don't know at last comes when. It will come in this lifetime or it will come after 10 lifetimes. We don't know. The problem here, Krishna mentions that beyond the perceptions of the senses, the all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, immovable. So, because we are very limited in these senses and we are used to think with respect to our senses, if there is something that our senses cannot perceive, it's very difficult to believe. Hmm. So our eyes, when we see something, we believe. but we only hear, it's very difficult to believe. If we hear something, then we try to Google it, we try to do something and make sure, and then we are okay. But if the senses cannot perceive, very difficult to fix the mind. So this process as such looks difficult. Requires a lot of efforts from our side to achieve this stage. So Krishna is giving the comparison that one way you can achieve the success much easier way, and the other way is a difficult way, where you have to go through a lot of pain. So we already have pain, so already living being has to go lot of challenges, and in that also, if you have to do some spiritual practice there where there are more challenges, it becomes a struggle. Actually spiritual practice should be done in happy mood, but if we have to do it in a struggle, it's very difficult. So Krishna will give some more um, comparative points, why he mentioned in the last shloka that those who worship my personal form, they are great, or they are better. Why he said like that? So for that he is giving comparative analysis that it's how it is difficult to do through impersonal. So in the next couple of shlokas, Krishna will continue the same theme, and then Krishna will go into the phase where he explains how we can do the devotional service. Okay, so we'll continue this discussion tomorrow about the difficulty or the challenges in the impersonal worship. So we'll see that tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. So anybody has any comments or additions? Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much.